Well, I wanted to share with you my experience of the Medicine Buddha retreat while it's still fresh in my mind. Um, I'll just back up a little bit. Um, I have an extremely overactive imagination, much to my chagrin. It's also the main source of my proliferation, my dramas, my movies, and my courtroom dramas inside my mind. But it's also, I have found out over the years, and particularly starting last year, that if I can get that imagination to really participate in the sadhanas, they come alive for me in a way that I never, I guess I just never thought I could use my imagination that type of way. So last year I did it for the first time, very, very focused. His Holiness had asked us to do the green tar practice because of COVID. And I just really made a strong commitment that I wanted to really get familiar with her. I wanted to really unpack the 21 tars. I read some commentaries and really get into the visualizations, her color, her mudras, her body postures, the implements she was using, her pacifying energy. And I just had so much fun, and it really deepened my refuge in the skillful means and how Buddhas will emanate in different types of aspects to benefit us. And, last year was just, it started at the end of, 2020. It was a wild year last year, the election, and then COVID playing itself out, the insurrection, the, new president. She just seemed to be so qualified with her enlightening influence to be able to help us. And so this year, when I found out that we were going to have the medicine Buddha, I said, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to use my overactive imagination, which had been proliferating quite a bit in 2021. It was just almost on the edge of personal distress, almost on the edge of the anxiety. I had to continually keep it down because I was just making up these pictures in my head of the worst case scenario of what was going on in the world. So I wanted to try it again to bring the Dharma alive, to open my heart and broaden my perspective and to strengthen my mind so I'm not so susceptible to this imagination throwing me into personal distress, and then the afflictions arise, and then I just suffer so much about it. And I happen to think that the medicine Buddha is just perfect, was perfect for this winter. I really do deeply feel that the world needs a healing balm. It needs a healing balm. And the different medicine Buddhas with their different colors, the pink, the scarlet, the gold, the yellow, the blue, really, for me, it has more of a cooling, a soothing kind of energy. I think that the energy in the world right now, bless our hearts, is raw. It's just kind of inflamed. And I found that during the practice, not only for my own mind, but for my perception of the world and just putting it out there, is to bring the volume down, to sort of soften the blow of karma that was ripening collectively and individually for the human family, and to cool the afflictions that were kind of going wild. So, I read something maybe just a few weeks ago that said, the people in the world, the stress of being in lockdown was just too much for a lot of people. The isolation, we're such social beings that everybody was feeling raw and vulnerable, confused, and a lot of stress. And unfortunately, everybody was missing each other. And of course, people staying home, they're watching the news, and then of course the crazy narratives that were happening in the past year with the, with people in that, this is my take, and this is why Medicine Buddha feels so important to me right now, is that people were feeling really vulnerable, isolated, stressed out, whatever. And this behavior of this harsh, cruel speech that was just running over the social media saying, if you've got pain, you've got dissatisfaction, you've got no money in your bank account, I can give you somebody to blame for the pain. And so it really brought this hostility and this viciousness, just people just playing out their fears in some way that has been so terribly harmful. So I really felt that, the fomenting this rage and this mistrust. And I said, boy, we need the Medicine Buddha to be able to just cool things down. And then, of course, February 24th happened. It's just like Venerable Jigme said yesterday, it's like front row seats on real time of a really gross kind of suffering. And being bodhisattvas in training, I really deeply believe that we just can't walk away from this stuff, but we've got to be able to use it. We've got to be able to transform it and to be able to bring our own good hearts and the medicine Buddha's light and love out into the world, because it really needs it, and Ukraine is certainly no exception. So what I ended up doing, which was somewhat like it was last year with green tar, is that I took Venerable Chinny did a great BBC a few weeks ago, and she had listed very, very generally that each of the medicine Buddhas, not just lapis lazuli, but the 7 medicine Buddhas have made very particular vows somewhere along their path on the Bodhisattva path, inspired by bodhicitta. I'm not sure where they are on the path where they make these vows. But the 7 medicine Buddhas made very particular vows to benefit very specific groups of people. Now, I don't think they throw everybody else out that doesn't fit into these lists, because over limitless time, we're all going to fall into the purview of one of these 7 Buddhas, because we're going to fall into all sorts of groups of very, very mental and physical suffering. But so what I was doing is that a number of times a day, I would first of all, and the sadhana is just so beautiful with the Buddhas on top of your head one at a time, and then up at the top you absorb them down in the opposite direction. So since I had this self-generation, I was going through bringing the light into myself, and then having each of those Buddhas one at a time absorb into me, and then within emptiness, I would arise as that Buddha. So the Buddha of the glorious king of excellent signs, of melodious sound, of renowned dharma. It was so personal, and I felt so engaged with them. And what I was thinking, so what happens is then I would use the light of whichever Buddha it was. Sometimes it was white light. I really take Venerable's instructions to heart to not hold these things so tight that you've got to get the details exactly. So some mornings when I would be reading one of the groups that one of the Buddhas was benefiting, it was just calling for the pink light of that particular Buddha, or it was the beautiful pale yellow light, or it was the golden light of that Buddha. And I would send that out to be able to purify the particular sort of suffering that they had. And sending that infinite love, the compassion, purifying the negative karma, the obscurations that are causing this particular suffering. And then for them to become Buddhas, to make the full circle, for all the suffering that's going on in particular. And then to shine the goodness in the world as well. I kept wanting the Buddha to just be the example, to be this huge band of radiating, streaming light that really embodied the goodness of the world in a perfected form. So I wanted to give you some ideas of what some of these particular groups that these Buddhas benefit. And they're all playing themselves out in the world right now. It's really quite remarkable, unfortunate, but they're there. And so to be able to connect with them using these particular Buddhas. So I'll just give you some examples. The Buddha renowned, glorious king of excellent signs. He's a beautiful golden one. So he was up at the very, very top of that column. He's the one that in particular is wishing to benefit those tormented by disease, epidemics, and fears of all kinds. So when I came up to that part in the meditation with him, I would definitely use that beautiful golden light to radiate it out into all the hospitals, all the hospices, all the elder homes, the families, everybody who had COVID, diseases, whatever was going on there, and to be able to just see it going into the hospitals and bringing a kind of ease, a kind of comfort, a kind of peace, a kind of inner strength for people who are suffering so much. The king of melodious sound, brilliant radiance of skill adorned with jewels. He is pale yellow in color. And he is one of the groups that he benefits are the parents, families, and friends that are lost in grief. So this opens up the whole world. I mean, who in the world doesn't have this experience? And right now, we've got a lot of people. They've got these outrageous numbers that for everybody who died from COVID, you've got at least 9 people in the closest circle impacted. And there are right now over 6 million people. So 54 million people just from COVID have been have been dealing with the direct grief and loss for the past year. Then you put in the wars. We've got 6 major conflicts going on in the world right now. We've got the climate catastrophes. A lot of people experiencing the grief of loss, the separation from things that we love. And so in this case, I was using the beautiful, pale, gentle yellow, more like not so much of a light as much as just a gentle nectar, an ambrosia that would come down to the crown of their heads. And I would be sitting at a bedside with somebody. I'd go into Ukraine with my mind. I'd go to the places that are getting tornadoes and floods and wildfires. I would just pick somebody and I would just be that Buddha and go into that place and be with that person and just bring this love and bring this healing, bring this reassurance, this courage. And I found that, it was deepening my refuge. It was helping me. One of the ways in which I avoided the personal distress was that I was seeing all this as lacking any inherent nature. I was not inherently existent Buddha. The suffering that people, the loss that they're experiencing was not inherently existent. And so it was really helpful for me to not get caught up in the drama that I was creating in my imagination about the loss and the great grief that people were experiencing. Then we have, there's one here that is the Buddha Melodious Osha, renowned Dharma, is the one that's pink in color. And this is around a lot of the benefit that he is wishing to give is to families and beings with wrong views. All right, any type of wrong views that has no faith in the 3 jewels, has never heard the sounds of the Buddha Dharma, those who are influenced by wrong teachings. So I was thinking of all of the conspiracy theories, all the false narratives, all of these some of these extreme spiritual, religious movements that are fomenting just erroneous views about what to abandon and what to cultivate. I put President Putin in there. He's got some serious, any of the powers that be that are suppressing, oppressing, and harming the people that have entrusted them. So I would do the same thing. I would bring that pink light into the crown of the heads of all the beings. So I did this. I just kind of, every day I might do a few of them, might focus on one of the Buddhas, but over time it certainly was a powerful antidote to personal distress and anxiety. I didn't ever fall in that place because I had the Buddhas not only protecting my own mind, because I took refuge in them as the request states. As you think of each Buddha, from the depth of your heart, you take refuge in that Buddha that you're visualizing. And I would do that. It would just really give me sort of a firm place to stand with them as I was, dissolving into emptiness, reappearing as this particular Buddha. So I found it just an extremely beautiful, fruitful retreat in that the medicine Buddhas came alive for me, and that I could use my imagination in a virtuous way. I do also really strongly believe that what Venerable says, if you have privilege, you have responsibility. And when I see my life, our life here, and this rarefied experience and what we have, there is so much that we have. Our responsibility is huge. And I was thinking that taking full advantage of this life would propel us in an extremely quick forward direction if we utilize the time that we have here. We're not going to be, not hit or miss, not going to a teaching when we can, or, doing a retreat when we can, take the time off. We've got everything that we need. And so to be able to progress quickly along the path during this very, very short time of this very, very precious, precious life, I really got connected to that universal responsibility. So it became a great joy for me. Whether it's transformed my mind, and I would like to think that there's some benefit. The Buddhas are benefiting all the time. It may not be short-term benefit, but being able to transform the circumstances and the causes for future suffering, and to help sentient beings attain awakening as soon as they can. It was really it was very helpful. So